This video is part of the Tools for the Journey section of the Foundation Stones project. It's about how culture fits into its context. Exploring this relationship will introduce us to a simple but powerful perspective that can help us better understand our world, how it is changing, and how it could change. Let's start with a brief look at what we mean by culture. Culture has a lot of meanings, but we are going to use it in its anthropological sense. In this sense, as you likely know, culture is a broad concept that covers everything non-genetic that characterizes some group of people. It refers to everything that people learn from each other, all of the shared customs, knowledge, beliefs, language, norms, institutions, etc. This is the non-material side of culture. Culture also includes everything that people make, all of the tools, buildings, clothing, technologies, etc. that characterize the group. This is the material side of culture. As children, we absorb our culture over many years and in ways large and small, like my granddaughter is doing here, and it then shapes both how we perceive the world around us and how we interact with that world. The human ability to have and to evolve culture has made us unusually adaptable and has allowed us to spread all over the planet. Over at least the last 40,000 years, there have been thousands of different cultures adapted to different environments and different times. So that's culture. Now let's look at how culture fits into its context, starting from a personal perspective. Think of this rectangle as representing a person. It could be you, or me, or anyone. A person is made up of many facets. Each of us has everything that we inherit through our DNA, what I will call our innate human nature. And then over time, we acquire unique personal experiences and learnings. Plus, we also learn a tremendous amount from our culture. Things like language, skills, behaviors, expectations, and so on. You can't have much of a culture with only one person, so let's add another person from the same culture. They will have a similar pattern of innate human nature, unique experiences, and shared culture. When these two people communicate with each other, they will do so via their shared culture, the language they share, their shared expectations about behaviors, and so on. So the culture, their shared culture, serves as a bridge and an interface between them. The world includes more than just people. Let's represent everything else with a figure that goes around the people. An important part of everything else is the material culture, the buildings, the clothing, the tools, the food, and so on. And then, out beyond the material culture is the truly non-human world. Living things, the oceans, the atmosphere, the sun, etc. Our interaction with the wider world is colored, often shaped by what we have internalized from our culture. In addition, many of our interactions with the wider non-human world are mediated by the material side of our culture. For example, we moderate the impact of the weather through clothing and shelter. We manage the growth of living things with the help of farm and forestry equipment. Likewise, many of our interactions with the wider human world are mediated through technologies like books and phones and airplanes that are part of our material culture. So culture, both the material side and the non-material side, serves as an interface between each of us and the wider world, both human and non-human. All right, now let's look at this from the perspective of culture. Culture is shared, so it finds itself between the shared parts of our innate human nature and the wider world. The unique experiences that each of us have aren't shared, so they aren't seen by the culture. If we rearrange and simplify, we get a diagram that we can use to convey the essential features of the culture as interface perspective. A viable culture needs to mesh with both sides, and viable parts of culture, like institutions, also need to mesh with both sides as well as with the other parts of the culture. If change occurs in any part of the diagram, then all the other parts will feel the impact from that change. Likewise, if we want to be successful at intentionally changing some part of the culture, we need to understand how that change could mesh with the rest of the diagram. It's all interconnected. Viewing culture as an interface in this way provides a powerful whole system framework for understanding what drives cultural change and what kinds of new cultural patterns might be realistically possible. For example, our current economic system assumes that unending economic growth is both possible and necessary. Nothing internal to economics or even internal to today's culture throws any light on the validity of that assumption. It is only when we look out to the wider physical world that it becomes clear that sooner or later the economy will run into the physical limits of a finite planet. As long as the impact of the human economy was small compared to the capacity of the Earth, we could run the economy as if unending economic growth was possible. But when we reach those limits, and there are many indications that we already have, the economy will have to change. Looking ahead, viable planetary era cultures will need to live within the limits of a finite Earth, and that means that the economic systems for those cultures will need to thrive without overall growth. A hard concept for today's cultures to understand, but actually quite doable in the context of the planetary era. This example from economics is just the tip of the iceberg. As we move forward with the foundation stones, we will find over and over that seeing culture as an interface between our innate human nature and the wider world provides a powerful whole system framework, both for understanding the limits of today's institutions and for understanding the kinds of changes that will be needed to create the viable institutions of the future. Simple but powerful. Thanks for watching.